If you had to choose between cereal 1 and cereal 2, which would you buy? Don't think, just pick the one you're guessing probably doesn't have teeny shards of glass in it. Many people would go for cereal number 1 by default because it's a brand you recognize and trust. That's the power of brand advertising. Yes, brand advertising. That hard to quantify, why should I buy ads for my own company name, first to get struck from the marketing budget line item. Unappealing though it may be, brand advertising does impact sales. That impact is just a little harder to trace than cut and dried direct response results. Today on Marketing is Broken, I'm chatting with Michael Gumbert, Senior Paid Media Specialist at Perrill. We'll dissect the role that brand advertising plays in overall marketing success and talk about why and how to create branded ads that really work. As for the psychopaths who would risk it all on unbranded cereal number 2, I can't help you. Marketers sometimes give so much thought and attention to selling our product that we forget to sell ourselves. I mean, our brands. But building better brand recognition is important, and it doesn't just happen on its own. How much weight should you give to brand advertising? Good question. There's an important balance between building awareness and generating actual sales. Tilt the scales one way or another, and bad things start happening. For example, when you focus too much on product sales and not enough on brand, you risk losing potential customers to skepticism and doubt. I call this the "I don't know you, why should I care" problem. On the flip side, it is possible to focus too much on awareness and not enough on direct response. Think about certain cancer charities, whom I won't name. How many pink-washed awareness campaigns have you seen? I'm pretty sure we're all aware of breast cancer by now. I, for one, am waiting to see the first direct response breast cancer cure sales campaign. You need to find the happy medium between focusing only on direct response or only on brand advertising. Fortunately, I've got just the person here to teach us. Michael Gumbert is the Senior Paid Media Specialist at Perrill, where he walks this tightrope every day.
What common misconceptions do marketers have about brand versus direct response? And how do you know when you might be focusing on one too much at the expense of the other?
Yeah, to start with, I think the biggest misconception that a lot of marketers have is that they have to be doing one at the exclusion of the other. In talking to clients and talking to other agencies, it's almost like this idea that if you're doing brand advertising, you can't be doing direct response. And if you're doing direct response, it's almost like you shouldn't be advertising. It's almost like a separation of church and state, which is weird from my perspective. I think that's how you know that something is probably out of whack in how much you're doing. If you feel like if you're doing one, you can't be doing the other, because I mean, the truth is that they work best when you're using both.
Sure.
And I think that alignment kind of comes in like where you are in the marketplace, what kind of the goals of the organization is, how new you are. An example would be like an Apple. They can get away with a lot more, direct response now because they have this history of having built this brand over a long period of time and kind of had that relationship with customers that people just trust them. Apple can just kind of show you their logo, and that carries with it a certain set of emotional connections already established. Whereas new entrants to the marketplace, they might have to spend that time doing that brand building a little bit more aggressively than they want to be doing the direct response. Now, of course, you need to be doing the direct response because at the end of the day, you need to be having those conversions. You need to have those sales. You need to be generating that revenue. But you can't, it's a lot harder if you're not also giving a person some sort of emotional connection to your brand, not just how and why you should buy, but who you are that they're buying from.
All right, so let's unpack that a little bit more. So you said that, not looking at one at the exclusion of the other, or looking at one at the exclusion of the other is kind of the bad thing. So how do they work together? So how can brand advertising be bolstered by direct response and vice versa?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because really they should be working together. And how they work together is that brand advertising kind of gives you that emotional connection. It's the relationship. It's that factor of trust that you kind of build up. And it's trust both ways. Businesses and organizations trust their customers that keep coming back, and those customers and kind of trust the organization that they're delivering on their promises. And how that impacts sales is that it makes the sales process easier. You have to work less at convincing somebody that you're trustful, or you have the expertise to deliver the solution that you promise, because you're backing that up. And then how the direct conversion works is that it's that consistent messaging. It's that talking as one voice, and it kind of bolsters that brand that, like, hey, I bought from these people in the past, they delivered on that promise. Now maybe you don't have to talk quite as much about price. It helps you to start to not have to compete on price, and you don't have to talk sometimes nearly about every single feature that you might be offering, and it allows you to go a little bit more high level and kind of broaden that audience, because brand advertising, just the nature of how you have to do it, is a little bit more mass market. It's a little bit less target, and that kind of might introduce you to new audiences and the people that you used in the past with direct response, and kind of become that cohort of advocates for your brand.
Okay. All right. So I can see how that kind of works together there. Now, taking that kind of one step further, let's say you have, a given amount of dollars, and then you're using a volume knob to try and figure out how much you're going to spend in direct response or brand, and vice versa. So where do you, or what kind of thought process do you go through to determine how much of those budgets should be spent on or allocated toward direct response efforts versus brand building?
Yeah, and my thought process is it comes down to the business goals and kind of where the business is just as a business, and just kind of in the calendar. Obviously, being that it's the holidays, Christmas time, a lot of businesses are really focused on that direct response, because they need to be. It's the close of the year, books are starting to close, the finances need to start to make sense. And then come January, they're going to probably shift a little bit more focus. But my general thought process is you probably want to put a little bit more into the brand advertising than direct response, without going to the extreme, simply because that brand advertising is more long-term. It's kind of always there, always on. And because you're not necessarily looking for a direct response from it, it's easier to keep it on because it's a consistent message. The message isn't changing. It costs a little bit more, and putting it out there, and then kind of keeping that direct response going. Because again, at the end of the day, you also need to be making sales. You need to be doing something, getting customers if you're service-based. So
Great. Awesome advice for people trying to consider the balance between direct response and brand. Michael Gumbert, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
thank you very much, Josh.
Think of brand advertising like brushing your teeth. You just have to do it. You're really not sure why, but people smarter than you say it's important. Plus, everyone else just enjoys being around you more when you keep up with it. And that's good enough for me. Hey, it's Josh from Brandish Insights. Thank you for watching Marketing is Broken. If you like this week's episode, please click below to subscribe or check out other episodes. And if your company could use more insights around your branding efforts, check out brandishinsights.com.